Well, welcome here to Wall Covering Secrets, and we're going to explore the real ways that you too can use wall covering. Hi, I'm Brian Santos, the Wall Wizard, and for over 25 years, I've been educating people on how to paint, faux finish, and finally here in this DVD, teach the real magic of wall coverings. We're going to show you some of the real concepts of how to work with materials, also how to do the proper preparation. We're going to be showing you how to pre-cut and activate and finally hang using a real home, using a real family, in a real way, so you too can experience the real true secrets of how to work with wall coverings. And that is what makes a wizard, is when you're willing to risk and learn how and the why of how to. We want to have a table to work from. Remember, Grandpa always said it is easier to deal with paper dry and flat than it is wet and vertical. So we want to use a table, but we don't want to use Aunt Millie's custom mold, dining room table, or we don't want to go on the floor or the carpet because that's going to be hard on your back. So here's a little idea that can help a lot. What we're going to do is actually get a 3/4 inch plywood, and again, remember, we're out in the garage, so this is where we're going to do all our messy stuff, but we want to make sure we cover it with some 6mm plastic, black plastic. The way that I'm supporting it is with these sawhorses, and it's about belt height, and that makes it easier so we're not reaching down and over. So we're going to go ahead and pull this around, and this gives us a nice big table on which to work from. And you're going to notice as we cut, we're going to need some tools. Now, we'd like to break these into the type of tools that make sense for the project. And one of the things that we're going to show you within the video here is we're going to show you how to use carpenter's squares. So we're going to need some carpenter's squares. We're going to need some knives. We'll also need a pad of paper and some pencils. Also, some measuring devices, some measuring tapes and so forth. But last but not least, we're going to need a lot of rubber bands, number 10 rubber bands. And we're going to show you how to go ahead and pre-cut the entire room of wall covering before you get to the wall. The actual job is only as good as some of the tools we need, and there are some basic tools we have to have. Well, we're going to try to break these down to groups that'll be very easy for you to understand. And one of the first things we have to do is disassemble the room. So here's our little trick. We're going to use a technique called bagging and tagging. Take Ziploc bags and a felt marker, and we're going to go ahead and mark the individual bags what's going to go inside. In this case, vents, switch plates, and then we put everything in into one bag. Now, the tool of choice that I like to use is called a 10-in-1. And one of the reasons why is because you're going to see through the entire project how we use this in so many different ways for prepping, pulling nails. It even has a built-in screwdriver here so that we can go ahead and remove any type of vents or switch plates or any kind of things that are off the wall, so we're not running back and forth. So this also has a hammer built in, so if you have to knock back anything, scrape, dig out any type of old caulking. So having a good tool like this gives you a lot of versatility. We're also going to need things like our trash bag. Now this will be for making our aprons, for also delivering any type of trash we can get rid of out of the room, and of course some masking tape. These are the essentials for disassembling and making sure that you can do a proper prep job. Basic preparation is really the key to everything, and I know it seems daunting, but these are investment tools that you can use for years and years to come, regardless if you're painting, faux finishing, or wallpapering. Well, one of the things we have to do is make sure all the grease and everything is off the surfaces. So a couple little wizard tricks and tools that we need to have. This is an extension pole which we'll use to both roll primer and to use for any type of sealers or to apply any type of paste on the wall. We're also going to need a sanding swivel head here and some sanding screens. I like to use 80 to 120 grit for sanding. This is designed to knock down any peaks off the wall. Once you have that done, we definitely should clean up a little bit, and so we're going to go ahead and use our color-coded buckets. Now I like to use orange or red for cleaning because we're going to use a little bit of TSP, and also I'd like to have these yellow and green scrubby sponges and maybe even a Scotch-Brite handle sponge, so it'll allow me to either scrub the surface or to abrade the surface. Now once you've cleaned, you definitely have to rinse. So here's the little trick. Again, I like to use color-coded buckets. Blue is going to be for our rinsing, and we're going to have some white vinegar, and of course these towel sponges work really, really well for cleaning wallpaper, wiping up after yourself. We're also going to need a stack of maybe old towels. We're going to use these for drying and cleaning, as well as we're going to use them for putting underneath buckets so we don't spill over the carpet. Last but not least, but probably the simplest tool that we can use to do any type of spackling is going to be our patch stick. Now this is going to be used, it's a spackle that actually works like a deodorant stick, and you can actually just go ahead and roll it up, and then we have our own built-in scraper right in here. And this is some of the basic tools that we need to clean, prepare, and make sure we're going to have a quality job to last for years. Wall covering. Well, in this case, wall covering removal. I know it's a real daunting task, but I tell you, I have used this secret wizard solution for many, many years, and you'll remove 1, 5, 10. You let it set long enough, it'll dissolve anything, honestly. But a couple of things. Let's talk about some of the tools. We're going to need a perforation tool. We should go ahead and poke holes. This is called Paper Tiger, and this is the 3-headed version. Get 2 of these. Why? Wax on, wax off. You'll get done a little quicker. You also need a paper scraper, which is designed to actually remove between the layers of the wall and the wallpaper, so I like that tool. Some duct tape to cover over electrical, switch openings and switch plates so you don't get water inside. We'll also need some plastic, 1/2 mil, enough to go around the room at least twice over. We'll need a pump sprayer, that's a tool, plastic, and this will help apply the solution I'm going to give you, as well as we need some buckets. We'll need a 5-gallon bucket, and we'll need a cleanup bucket with a sponge and some scrubby pads. Now, really simple household chemicals. This is not a lot to have, but it's enough, and it's what we need to do the actual removal solution. We'll need about 3 or 4 bottles of wallpaper remover, 22-ounce bottle, maybe about a quart of our fabric softener, maybe about 2 cups of our white vinegar, and also we'll need some baking soda. And we'll give you that recipe a bit later, but I'm just trying to get you to gather up the tools we'll need to actually remove the wallpaper so you can be successful with the new installation of any kind of wall coverings that you want to do around the house. Well, we've got our surface cleaned and we've got it spackled, but regardless if you're doing any type of wall covering, there's some sort of primer or some sort of sizing that needs to be applied. Now, we're going to go into a little bit later, but some basic equipment we're going to need. We're going to need some drop cloths. We're going to need some towels for cleaning up. We're going to also need a sponge and fresh water. Change the water often, okay? That's one of the reasons I like little buckets like this, because I can change them in the sink and not have to worry about dumping big old 5-gallon buckets out. Also, we're going to use prep tools for cutting in, such as our grip it and loader tray, or a good standard 3-inch angled sash brush. Other specialty things we should have are extension poles. Now, I like this one because we can actually go ahead and adjust it in any length that we need as we're working around the surface. Also, you might want to have a tray like this that are disposable, but you know what? Here's a better idea, and I use this for many, many years. Use a 5-gallon bucket, and you're going to use a paint grate like this. And to make it easier to move around, we're going to use a garden planter and put a little bit of pipe insulation on here. It acts like a bumper, so instead of having to pick up the tool, I can just move it around. Of course, we need a bucket with a lid in case we need to stop, because the enemy of primer is air. So we want to make sure we always have a lid on there so it won't dry out. And last but not least, but what this is all about is priming the surface correctly. So having good quality acrylic primer or an oil sealer, depending on the surface that you're actually applying to, is going to ensure that quality job that will last for years and years. We're going to start papering. Oh my goodness, we're actually going to get something on the wall? Yeah, well, we're right at the very end, and I want to share with you the last set of tools and really give you an explanation of why and how we're going to use them. First thing is if you notice, I am wearing a pouch, and it has a belt with a snap clip belt buckle. I also, if you notice, are using leather pouches. This one is the one we're going to actually use to have our tools, so we have our brushes, our cutting tools, and so forth. This one over here is actually where I have my snap-off blades. Now, since I'm here, let's talk about this blade. This is probably the most important tool, yet it is the least expensive tool, but it does the most for us. This is a snap-off blade knife. Now, again, it's plastic with a injector here for your thumb. But the way this works is that we want to snap it in the pouch. We never snap a blade against the wall. This is a major, major safety issue. Do not snap the blades against the floor, against the wall, against anything but inside your pouch. And the reason for that is that we want to make sure the blades are dropped inside of this pouch, and we're not having blades all over the place for the little ones to step on these very, very sharp razor tips. Now, these are very inexpensive tips, and so we want to remember, keep them very sharp, so we snap the blades over and over again. We have lots of knives. This is the inexpensive part. The wallpaper is the thing we really want to make sure is going to be applied appropriately to the wall. So let me show you how to set this up. I have my clean tools over here, the ones that are all got the new blades. The one that I'm going to be using goes right here at the top, and all the dead soldiers, the ones that are used up, go right down here. So we have the good, the bad, the ugly, and that's the way I like to set this up. Now, here's a couple other tools. Smoothing devices, okay? This is a wallpaper brush. This one is 30 years old. Oh yeah, just because it's old doesn't mean that you have to throw it away. I love this tool. I get used to it. I can use it many, many different ways. And I'm going to show you the process of using a brush. Do not use a sponge. Do not use a squeegee. We use a brush. Why? Because it eliminates all the air. You see, what holds the wallpaper to the wall is a vacuum when it's wet. But what holds it to the wall when it's dry is the adhesive. And by the way, we always keep our tools with us, so we're going to put this right inside the pouch. Now, let's talk about smoothing devices. This is called a float. It is not called a squeegee. This is how we actually set seams. We can smooth this up and down by applying very gentle pressure. You're going to see me use this quite a bit. We're also going to be using our broad knife. Now, the broad knife itself is used to actually trim and cut. It is what we call the protector. And I'm going to show you how to use this. Now, this is a 4-inch handle, 4-inch width. And also, it's going to give me protection from actually maybe cutting into myself. And you're going to see how that works. So you got to work cautiously when you're working with tools like this. Now, obviously, we're going to need a measuring device. So we need a measuring tape as we work. And last but not least, but probably one of the most important tools, is our plumb line. Now, this tool in particular is going to help us with the 3 laws of wall covering. And I'm going to share with you that just in a moment. Stripping wallpaper. Oh my goodness, I know that could be a very daunting task, but it's sometimes necessary. Remove the old to put up the new, and you're always going to put up new wallpaper on a good surface. Don't try to go over it. It's better to remove. So I'm going to give you a little wizard secret about how to remove wallpaper. Now, I've already talked to you about in our tools section about how to use the paper tiger. I'm going to show you that in action, and our paper scraper. Now, we're going to take a clean 5-gallon bucket of hot water, and then we're going to add to it a 22-ounce bottle of wallpaper remover concentrate. We're going to add to it about a 1/4 cup of liquid fabric softener. To that, we add about a cup of white vinegar, and last but not least, about 2 tablespoons of baking soda. We take this mixture, mix it around, and then we put it into our pump sprayer. Now, next step is to go ahead and make sure the power's turned off in the room, and then we're going to take our paper tiger and we're going to perforate the wall. Oh my goodness, look at that. I'll tell you, this thing works really great. It has these little teeth and it really perforates. This is our paper tiger. Now, normally if I'm doing a large project, I really try to get 2 of these and work 2 at a time and get done faster. And the idea here is to come along and penetrate. Now, if we have a vinyl surface, which is what this is, we can't just pull it off because the paper is not going to come off in 1 sheet. It'll actually come off in 2. Now, there's 2 types. We have a vinyl coated here, which we have to use the perforator, but the second kind is a laminated or strippable vinyl, which we still have to remove the backing. So the removing solution that I'm going to give you is still going to apply. Now, we're going to take our time, and in a few moments here, I'm going to do the entire surface, and then we're going to go ahead and apply our stripper. Okay, I put my solution inside of my pressure sprayer. Now this is a really slick little device, and what you want to do is just very evenly coat the wallpaper with the solution. Now I usually like to work with that solution maybe 15-20 minutes, and you can cover a lot of area very quickly. Now, little secret, you want to spray from the bottom up, and you want to spray around the room once, twice, thrice. 3 times, okay? Now, you're going to notice what's starting to happen, and if you look very closely here, you'll notice it's starting to turn color. What's happening is this mixture is starting to penetrate through the little perforations that we did with our paper tiger. But there's one more thing, and this is the real secret that no one ever teaches you, and that is this. We're going to take our 1/2 ml plastic. Now, here's the great wizard secret about removing wallpaper. We're going to take the plastic and we're going to hang it. This is about 9 by 12 sheet. And we're going to hang it right over the wet wallpaper now, okay? Just like so. And it's a really good idea to have somebody help you, or you can get push pins, which I have right here, to stick the paper up, or the plastic up so you can move. So you just push it in just like that. And now what we can do is go ahead and just smooth this out. Now, we want to get as much air out of this as possible. And what this is going to do now is cook that mixture right underneath the plastic. And the idea here is we don't want the solution to evaporate. We want it to penetrate. So this allows me now to continue working around, even by myself, and I can go ahead and apply my plastic. It's one of the great secrets of how to remove wallpaper. You get a real good close-up here. You can actually see how the paper has turned dark. And that is a really important lesson to know, that the adhesive is starting to break down. Now, taking our paper scraper, we're going to come right at the edge, and you're going to notice, look at this. It actually has re-softened the paper. The adhesive is going to now dissolve. So once that happens, we're just going to be able to let it literally fall off the wall. And that, my friends, is a huge secret here. We're going to take off and remove the wallpaper. We still have the residue adhesive. We do need to wash this down, but I like using the solution and a scrubby pad, and it will dissolve all this adhesive. You can't wallpaper or paint with this old adhesive on there, so do remove it. You got to rinse it clean using the vinegar, 1 cup of water, to 1 cup of vinegar to 1 gallon of water. Well, you know, we do have to remove switch plates and so forth, because we've got to hang paper. We're going to actually cover the switch plates with wall covering later. But what I want to do is show you a neat little trick. We call this bagging and tagging. So here's what I want you to do. Take your 10-in-1 tool and I want you to unscrew the plate, okay? So, ooh, look at that. Pop right out. Okay. So go ahead and unscrew that, all right? And I'm going to go ahead, and we've marked our little sandwich bags with what's going to go on the inside, which is our switch plate. Go ahead and pull that out. Take the switch plate, drop it in here. Now, what do you do with that? The screw.
I don't know.
Well, don't put it in there.
Oh, okay.
The reason why, it'll scratch up that plate. So put it back inside.
Okay.
Now, we have to also cover that cable. Because it is hooked to the cable, we can't remove it. So we're going to use our blue tape. So I want you to go ahead and put some blue tape right around there.
All the way around.
Yeah, all the way around, because we do not want to get any type of paint, primers, or any type of mud or anything else on there. Now, while you're doing that, I want to point out something. Now, I know we just moved the furniture, and I know you're a good housekeeper, okay? But, oh my goodness, dust bunnies, okay?
Oh, that's
now,
bad.
It is bad, because nothing will stick. Paint, faux finish, wallpaper, none of these things will stick. So we're going to use a technique I call wet sanding, and then we're also going to clean here. So I'm going to show you that next, where we'll actually now go ahead and remove any type of peaks and any type of dirt and grime, because wall coverings are only as good as the surface you put it to.
That's right.
Well, we've taken down our switch plates, and of course this stays it all together, right? And we've marked on the outside what went inside. Now we've got our plates down, but we don't want to lose these, and we're going to put everything together. So we're going to take a big bag and mark the outside, the room we are disassembling, and then we'll go ahead and just drop it in like so. Now, zip that up, take a little of your blue tape, all right? On the edge, and what we want to do is take this bag and hang it up on a wall or on the mirror or on a glass window or something, but off the floor, and also that way it won't get all dirty, and when we're done we have all the parts together and we're not going to lose anything.
Fantastic.
Okay, well, you know, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. And what we're doing is taking our pivot sander with a screen. This is about 80 grit, which is abrasive enough to knock all the peaks, but not really dig into the surface. So what we're trying to do here is just level out and make it. Notice also the way I'm doing this. I'm leaning into the actual tool, and I'm using my leverage just to sand down any peaks so we get a nice, easy job. So once this is done, I'm going to go ahead and have Janet go ahead and lightly vacuum. You also might want to cover any furniture with plastic or any type of drop cloth, or better yet, take the furniture out of the room so you don't get a mess on top of your furniture. Clean the surfaces, including the molding, so we don't get all this dirt inside and so forth.
Okay.
So here's some secrets. What we're going to do is actually have, and I like using color-coded buckets here, our cleaning bucket and our rinsing bucket. Red for poison, blue for clean, okay, or rinsing. And what we're going to use is a non-phosphor TSP. Now, what TSP is, trisodium phosphate, is a cleaning agent, degreasing agent, and the recipe is for about a quarter cup of this into a gallon of water. Now, we're also going to use a scrubby pad type of thing. Now, this does a couple of things, which is really great. It will scrub the surface, it'll lift any grease and grime, and it gives me a way of actually controlling the amount of pressure. But we don't want to just leave this on the surface, so we're going to use a rinsing agent, and what we're going to do is just use regular white vinegar and about a cup and splash some in there inside of our water. Now, the idea here is we have phosphor and we've got to neutralize it with an acid, and this is going to astringe the surface, like makeup. When you take off your makeup,
do you have to let it dry, or
actually, you know, you can just once you do this, okay, you just go right in and start rinsing right behind it, and automatically, see, we're not going to cross-contaminate. You're picking up all the phosphor, all the grease, grime, and everything else, and it's neutralizing it so you get a nice clean surface. Okay, well, you know what? We're actually scrubbing this with our trisodium phosphate. And you notice it's actually getting all that dirt off, right?
Yeah, it's great.
We especially do this on kitchen and bathrooms because you usually have glossy paint here, and this is going to actually take down a little bit of that gloss, and it's also going to get all the grease and everything off of those because, you know, even paint, I don't care how good you are, is not going to stick. But definitely wall coverings when I have a nice clean surface. So you're rinsing with your vinegar, I am cleaning with my TSP, and together it's like salt and pepper. It makes everything taste a little better and easier to do.
Perfect.
All right, now, not too far. Okay, we're going to start our wallpapering. There's two things that we're going to do. One of them is this. We have to show you a major secret in wall covering. Now, I've used this one for many, many years, and it is the secret not only to painting, but definitely wallpapering, and that is this, caulking. Now, if you recall, when last time we did some painting around the house here, we caulked a lot so that it would fill in the gaps and everything between the baseboards. This time we're going to use it for a completely different purpose. I'm using just a white acrylic caulking. You notice I'm just laying a nice little bead right along, okay? And then we release it. I always wipe off the edge a little bit like that. But what this is going to do for us is do something extremely important. And that is this. When we're cutting along, and I'm going to wipe this right now so it's nice and smooth. When we're cutting along now, instead of us cutting into the plaster, sheetrock, woodwork, or anything else, now the blade is going to go right into this white acrylic caulking. Now, that acts like a shock absorber. Now, these dull very, very quickly if I'm cutting into the rock or the wood. But by putting the caulking,
it kind of guides it.
Yeah, and not only that, but it acts like a shock absorber. So it doesn't dull the blade, because these dulls really quickly, and we can always snap the blade and also keep cutting. But this is going to give us a nice clean edge, and it's a real secret on the best way. Yeah. So we're going to let that dry. We do this always about a day ahead, and we're going to go around the inside, outside, around windows, everything, everywhere that this knife is going to come in contact to trim or cut. We're going to do that, and that is going to save us so much time, and the job we're going to get is absolutely going to be exquisite.
So excited.
Well, moment of truth. We got our paper. You've made your selection. I think it's a brilliant selection. I really do. It has a sort of an old world charm, but it has a high-tech feature, and that's this sort of flock suede effect, which, you know, a lot of people think, ooh, that's old fogey, but this is probably one of the coolest kinds of effects you can do. It gives you both the new and the old at the same time.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, but now one of the things we're going to do is explain a little bit about how wall coverings actually work, okay? So this actually is called the bolt. That is what a wall covering comes in. And also, this is the face, which has the pattern, but the backing is our sort of synthetic, and it's pre-pasted, which means it's not wet on the back. Okay, this is actually dry adhesive, and we will use water to activate this. Now, one of the things that we're going to do right now is called the layout.
What do you mean by that?
Well, one of the things that is really revolutionary about the way that I'm going to teach you how to use wall coverings here is that we're going to pre-figure out where every sheet's going to go. We're going to pre-cut the entire room.
No, wait. We cut the whole room
first?
first?
The entire room.
Well, that's a new way to me.
Yeah. See, a lot of people, what they would do, even my grandfather, who's a hanger, cut one sheet at a time, up and down, up and down, up and oh my God, take him 10 days to do one room. We can literally hang the whole room in an hour and a half.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm not kidding. We're going to do about 20 rolls of wallpaper. That's approximately 60 sheets of paper. Now, another unique thing about this is how we're going to go about doing this. Now, you have very tall ceilings here. You actually have 9-foot ceilings. And we're going to go into how much paper a roll, we can get out of a roll, how much sheets and so forth.
Okay.
Now, what I want to show you here is everything we're about to do now in the layout is all based upon this right here. The wallpaper itself, the pattern and the width of the wallpaper. Now, off the bat, what we're going to do is the first thing we do is we're going to measure the width of our wall covering. In this case, this wall covering is 20.5 inches wide. That is from seam to seam, edge to edge. Now, another unique thing about this particular pattern is the fact that it has a pattern repeat. The pattern repeat, if we look at this little squiggly right here, and we measure down, you'll see the same little squiggly right here. This is referred to as the pattern repeat.
So it goes
Yeah,
vertically.
Exactly. So actually you can see it's right there. And this repeat is approximately 20.5 inches in drop, which means it goes from match to match, right?
All right.
Now, here's the next thing about this. This is what we call a straight across match. Now, it said that on your little sample on the back.
Yeah, I
it
wondered
says
what
straight
that
across.
meant. Okay.
Well, what that means is this flower here, there's a little missing part on this side, is exactly straight across on the other side. And that, when we put these two edges together from sheet 1 to sheet 2, this is what creates the pattern. It's what we call grid. Greater rhythm in design. It creates a grid on the wall. Now, this is a term and this is a technique we're going to use in cutting the paper and making sure that we're going to be able to match each sheet in sequence, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're going to be able to cut it in the appropriate length. So that's what I want to show you now. I want to show you how we're going to physically figure out where every sheet's going to go, and then how to actually cut and measure it for, or actually measure it for the cut length, and then we're going to write it all down, and this will be our blueprint. This will be our guide to success. You know, we are just at the point we're going to start really cutting everything. And so now we're going to take all that information about the paper, and now is when the paper is really going to start to hit the wall. Now we're going to figure out what every single piece of wallpaper is going to go before we actually hang it.
And how.
And how. I know. That's the great secret I'm about to share with you. And we're going to cut the entire room of wallpaper before we get one sheet up on the wall. Now the way we're going to do that is we're actually going to find, this is our bedroom wall here, and we're going to put, this is the master bed wall. So we're going to use this as an accent wall. I want to make sure that the pattern is going to be right in the middle, and so it dissects the room so the stripe is right in the middle. So here's what we're going to do. The first thing we need to do is measure the width of our entire room from corner to corner of this wall, okay? In this case, this entire span of wall is exactly 192 inches. Now what I want you stay there. What I want to do is we're going to measure from your corner out to find the center. Let's see, half 192 is 96 inches. So what we're going to do is mark a little mark here at 96 inches. And now what we have is basically the center point of this wall. So what we're going to do now is taking our wallpaper, okay? I'm going to take this, and we're going to set this seam, this stripe, which is what I've determined is the visual point of the room. I want to make sure this stripe is dead center, but we also have to worry about the pattern. So what we're going to do is take the center line and measure out the width, which is where the seam is going to go, and I'm going to put a little pencil mark. Then we're going to come over here to the other side and put a little pencil mark. Now here's the way to think about this, Janet. Anywhere you see a pencil mark is where the seam is going to fall. That's where the two pieces come together.
The seams, okay.
The white space in between is where the sheet is going to fall.
The sheet, which is, okay.
Is the actual length from floor to ceiling. See, when it's on the table and when it comes in out of the package, it's called the roll.
A roll.
But when we cut the sheet or cut the piece, it becomes the sheet. That's right. So now, we've got that sort of figure, so we don't need that, but so what we're going to do now is take this little piece of paper here, and this is a quick little wizard way of marking out. Now we're going to take the piece and we're going to mark out right here, so we don't even, guess what, we don't need this anymore.
That's great.
We're going to take that and just go mark, now pull tight, okay, we're going to come over here, and we're going to come over here, And we do a little pencil mark.
And then number them?
That's right. Now what we're going to do is we're working backwards. Now, I'm right-handed. Are you right-handed?
Yes.
Yes. You know what? It is easier for us to hang from left to right than it is from right to left.
Oh, so that's why you, okay.
Yeah, and so what we're doing is I wanted to find out where exactly the full sheet is going to start with. Now this is number one, this is our full sheet, and here's a little rule that we like to use. It's not really sort of written in blood or stone, but what I like to do is when I do my wallpapering, I try to minimize the amount of seams and maximize the amount of sheets. Right, because this is where a lot of work is actually matching. Okay. And this, giving us the full width, is going to cover more area quicker. Okay. Well, now we sort of know where we're going to start. If this is 1, and this is going to be our full sheet, the next one would be number 2. And next one? 3. Number 4. And so forth, all the way around the room. You need to actually measure the distance from the ceiling all the way to the baseboard. And I'm going to use my tape measure. And we're going to do this. Now, this actually is about 8 foot 8 inches in height. Okay, and you can actually see that 8 foot 8, but we can't cut it 8 foot 8.
Now, why is that?
Ah, very good question. You see, if we cut it exactly the height of the wall, and the ceiling and the floor actually are not quite in parallel to each other, we're going to get a gap. Oh. So here's a little wizard trick. We're going to add to this height a 2-inch overlap at the top and about a 2-inch overlap at the bottom. Okay, now we've got our measurements, right? And we need a blueprint for success. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a yellow legal pad and we're going to mark the room in which we are actually going to hang. In this case, we're going to hang this entire master bedroom. We are then going to write down the numbers that we need, all the numbers that correspond on the wall, number 1 through 10 on this wall, and we're going to actually go 11 through 40 to do the rest of it. There's a whole other area that we're going to hang together, right?
Every measurement for each?
Every single sheet. And the reason for that is to make sure we do not miss one sheet and they're in sequence, so when we cut it on the table. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to measure the height. Okay, and I'm going to automatically add the 4 inches. Remember, height plus 4. Okay. I'm going to call that number out to you, and you're going to write it down in the appropriate slot. Number 1, so forth. Now, we're going to measure every slot. I know this is all one big wall, but guess what? Ceilings and walls come up and down. Yeah, and let's say it's maybe 8 foot 8 over here, but it's 8 foot 9 over there. Wow. Yeah, and it can happen. It can happen. I've been there. Huh. So that's one of the reasons I want to measure, because I may say, okay, we need to now cut it 8 or 9 foot 1, because it's height plus 4. Height plus 4, height plus 4. You can't screw up with height plus 4. Again, we're going to measure like number 3. I'm going to measure again, and there's a good bet that it's, guess what, 8 foot 8, and so we write down 9 foot. So number 1 is 9 foot, number 2 is 9 foot, number 3 would be 9 foot. Okay, we're coming around from that main wall, and so that was 1 through 10. Well, right here is number 11, because we're coming into this little like entry nook area for your bedroom. Well, one of the things we're going to do is measure from floor to ceiling. In this case, I've already measured it. It is 9 foot. That's the height plus 4 inches, right? Then that's number 11, so write down number 11, 9-0. Okay. Okay, on this, we have number 12, but we have windows in 12, 13, 14, 15. Well, we're going to break this into 2 pieces. Oh, okay. Okay? And part of the reason we do that is because we don't want to hang a full sheet right through the window. Right. Yeah. Okay. It's a lot of waste. And it's a problem because not only now if I hack off the top, you have this big piece of paper go plop right down on my head. A lot of waste. Yeah, so we're going to do all the cutting downstairs, and we're going to actually cut the piece. So how do you do this? So 2 cuts from at the top, one for the top and one for the bottom? Yeah, 2 sheets. 2 sheets. Now this is slot 12, but we're going to do 2 pieces. Okay. We're going to do a 12A. Oh. What do you think? For above. Above, that's exactly right. And from top to bottom, from the ceiling to the molding, it is 10 inches. Okay. So let's see, height plus 4, so we're going to write down how many inches? 14 inches is 12A. Okay? So then let's go down to the bottom here. 12B, let's see, from baseboard to the bottom is about 42 inches. Let's see, 42 plus 4.
46.
Bingo. And that is what 12B is.
Okay.
Okay? Here in slot underneath, which is 12B, it's actually 42 inches. So what are you going to write down?
46.
That's it. And we're going to continue doing the same thing here. So 13A is 14, 13B is
46.
right, and 14. 14A is
46.
Okay, and that's it. 14B and so forth and so on. So
Okay.
we're all of a sudden now we're at 15A and B, so that'd be 14 and 46,
Okay.
right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so 23 is again height plus 4, so that's 9. But now if you notice, I have written down on your piece of paper 23T. You see, we're going to take a piece of paper and wrap it inside here so that we can get the wallpaper to go on this plane and that plane. And by the way, so I need 23T to be exactly 22 inches off the top. Okay, so 22 inches T.
Off the top.
That's
and that
it.
allows for the wraparound?
The wraparound, which we're going to
Okay.
show. Very good terminology. That's excellent. You know what? We are that much closer to actually hanging the wallpaper.
We're getting there.
Yeah, we are. You know, it is a process, but you know, nothing like it. I mean, really, when this gets done, it is going to blow your mind how well this is going to look. Now, one of the things we have to do is establish the height of the running master sheet, which is our first sheet. But we also need to actually figure out where the pattern is going to go into this matrix. That's what we call it, this pattern itself, okay?
This I'm not so sure of. How
Well,
do you do this?
you know, this is something that's really important to understand. Remember we talked about the width, which is 20 and a half, and the repeat, which is 20 and a half. And you can see that this is actually the same flower here, right, you know, down. What we need to now do is establish where the ceiling line is going to be for things. And I don't want to cut through my...
That main pattern.
Yeah. So here's a little trick that I have done. First thing I do is I find the biggest element, which we call the key element. And we usually put it right here. And then what I do is usually measure up about an inch or so, and I put a little pencil mark, okay?
Okay.
Now, we're going to use a really interesting tool. We're going to actually use what's called a...
I love this. A carpenter's square?
Carpenter's square. Now, it's a very simple thing, maybe $5 or $6. This is really a new one. I've had it for about maybe 2 years. This one's 32 years old. It's one of my favorite tools just because it's
Still
old.
working well.
Yeah, you don't throw it away.
No.
But it gives us a couple of things. Number one, it is a perfect right angle, which is going to help us. And what we're going to do is put this little leg along the seam side. Now, do you know how wide a carpenter square is?
2 inches?
2 inches. Now, if we take, and that's where we're going to have our cut line at the ceiling, which is where I'm going to use the knife to trim off the excess. And we already said that we needed to add 2 inches. Remember that? Mm-hmm. Height plus 4.
Oh, that's perfect.
It is.
Yeah.
It works out perfect. So here's a little secret. What we're going to do, take now and put the inside here on this pencil mark, the carpenter square. And we're going to line up the small or the short leg of our carpenter square.
Now, these are always straight, right?
Yeah, they're always straight.
Okay.
Very good. It's called parallelity. The seams are always going to be exactly parallel to each other.
Line it up.
So we line it up. Now, here's the height that we need of the master sheet. It is 9 feet, remember?
Uh-huh. The
8,
ceiling
8
height.
plus 4, 9 feet.
feet.
Now, what I'm going to do is take my knife. We have these snap-off blades, and we're just going to cut off the top just really quickly, just come right along the edge, okay? Now, this automatically gives us a couple of things. It gives us the 2 inches above, and it automatically gives us a very squared end. Now, the next thing we're going to do is right off the bat, before we even go down to the other end and trim off the length we need, we're going to flip up the left-hand corner, and we're going to mark it number 1. Why? Because this is the master sheet.
First one.
First sheet, very good. I always put an M for master. So that way I know that this is the sheet we're going to match all the sheets from. This is a straight across match, which means the other half of the image is over here.
Is there a top or a bottom?
This is it. This is the top. We've determined at the top left-hand corner, okay? Now, the reason for that is because when we roll the paper up, when we actually process it and then we're going to book it, that way when you put it in the water tray, the number will be up and we'll be able to unroll it.
Great.
So let's go on down to the other end, and let me show you a little secret over here. We pull the sheet sort of tight, and the carpenter square is going to keep it nice and level. You can see I've measured out 9 feet over here, and I'm going to line up this carpenter square, and I'm going to show you a little wizard trick. I learned this many years ago. My grandfather taught me. You take this, and you pull back, and it cuts the paper.
It's a paper cutter, too.
It's a paper cutter. So automatically now we have our 2 inches because it's 2 inches there, and because we already built in the 2 inches, we know we have now got our master sheet, and now all the sheets are going to match after that.
Great.
Now we got to pull the wrapper off. Now that wrapper has a couple things. Now you know what? This is like a duh moment, but you see those? Those are called instructions, okay?
They are.
I know they're about that big.
Yeah, get your magnifying glass.
Read them because it really will tell you that it's pre-pasted, it is strippable, easy to remove, wash, all the things that we need to do. And here's a little secret I like to do. When I remove a label, I save the labels. And the reason why is if there is a problem with the material, I have the die lots, and this is my insurance policy. So what I do is I actually stack these up, and I save them. And then now the plastic, I have a trash bag. Here's a little wizard trick. Goes right in there.
Right in there.
So
perfect.
Now here's what we're going to do. We're going to take now, and I want you to pull
Does this pattern come exactly the same every time? Is it printed out?
No, great question. They're just lopped off in lengths, and so the pattern never starts in the same spot.
Oh, it doesn't.
No. So here's what we do. I want you to take this all the way up, and along this edge right here, we're going to try to match the pattern. So go ahead, slide it up.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I'm looking at the pattern. Keep going a little higher, and keep going, and stop.
Oh.
Now, you notice, does it match?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Now, what I want you to do is take a pen, that's over there above the carpenter square. See the pen?
Uh-huh.
I want you to put a little mark right at the top of the first one, so you know that they match. Yeah, right.
A mark on the new
Yep, right on the new. Okay?
Right on the print.
Right on the print, just right there. Now, that is going to be our cut line. Now, here's the trick. You notice how the pattern matches? I want you to pick up this sheet, and I want you to slide it over, and I want you to put that pencil mark, or that pen mark, right on the cut line. Look. Now, if you notice, okay, and I can point this out to you, you'll notice it's the same pattern, the same little edge. You see how the little thing is right there? See how it is? Same little floor.
Oh, yeah. Okay, perfect.
So that tells me this is a straight across match. Okay. So now what you do, you take your carpenter square, you line up your little leg, you line it up to the cut mark, and little grandpa trick, you hold always here at the left hand. Go ahead and do this, okay? And what I want you to do is pull nice and grab it here in the middle, right about here, and pull it straight back. Okay, nice and hard. Keep going. Keep going. Perfect. Okay, now take that scrap, throw it in there. Perfect. Down, just hold it down, so it's not going to slide. I come over here, make sure there's nothing underneath. I take my carpenter square, and I cut it to the length we need. And now we have cut our second sheet. Of course, what you need to do is have always a pencil. Now, the pen is not a good thing to actually mark on the back. And here's the reason why. This will bleed up through, the ink would bleed up through the wallpaper. So here's our number 1. So then what would be this one?
2.
2. So we're going to mark it number 2. So we know now 1 to 2, and then the next one we're going to do the same thing. Now here's the little thing we're going to save a little bit of time and energy. We know this is a straight across match. So the next length, instead of going all the way out here and match it, we're just going to bring it right on top of that one, leaving the number 1 out. So we always have the reference in which to mark from and to match from.
Fantastic.
It's that simple, seriously. Now we're going to cut 40 sheets.
Oh boy.
Are you ready?
I guess so.
The whole room. Watch this. Here we go. So I'm going to go ahead, grab this, you pull, and we're going to go right on top of number 2. Okay, we already cut number 1, and we're going to take it so you have to go and match the pattern. Now, I don't know if you can see, but you're not on the match right now.
Yeah, it seems hard to do.
Right.
Oh,
now,
I see.
So you got to take it up. Boom.
Right.
See it there? Now, let's talk a little bit, since you've now figured that out, that it didn't match, because we always got to match here. This, now taking the carpenter square, again, line it up here. Now, you see this extra right here? This is what we call the waist, okay? Now, the waist is what would be coming down on top of our head when we hang wallpaper. Remember, Grandpa says it's easier to deal with wallpaper dry and flat than it's wet and vertical.
Right.
And the reason for that is this is what would be making the paper fall off. So this we call salvage.
Oh,
okay.
like sewing.
Yeah,
okay.
like sewing. Very good. I like to think of wallpaper as big sewing.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Seams, pattern, match, cut, trim, you know, all those things. So again, this is waste.
Okay.
So that I'm going to trim that off. And of course, this third one, what are you going to mark it? Number?
3.
You got it. Go. Okay, now, tell me, what is 12?
It is 14 inches. So it's
Off
a short
of
one.
where?
12A. It's off of the above. 14
off the
inches
top.
from the top.
Now, this is the top. Remember I said you're up, I'm down, right? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a measuring tape, and I'm going to measure down 14 inches, okay? And I'm going to lock this at 14 inches. Heck, just so we can see it properly, let's do it this way, okay? Now, I know that this is exactly the match that I need. Now, here's what I'm going to show you. We can slide now this pattern, okay, until we hit the pattern match, okay? Now, it is right there, right? Because it's the same as the first sheet. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of little techniques here. This is going to make a big difference. We're going to measure down 14 inches. We set it here. Now, remember, we already added our 2 inches in, right? So, there's our 12A. Now, we need to turn over our carpenter's square and now cut this, and we mark it what?
Oh, wow. 12A.
12A. That's correct, okay? Very cool.
That's great.
Now you're starting to think like a wizard. Now, you always mark, yep, upper top. Now, what we're going to do over here, because I'm going to need your help over here, is I'm going to actually now cut the bottom. Now, we leave that in place.
Okay.
Okay, because that's where we're going to mark it. That's where we're going to actually keep it in the sequence.
Oh,
and remember, we keep it right in the match.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so we don't want to touch paper. Once it's cut, it's cut. Now, tell me from our instructions, what is the length of 12B?
12B is 46 inches.
Off the bottom, because it's B for bottom, right? Okay, so watch this. Now we're going to take and slide the pattern along. There's the match, right? Okay. You hold it down. I'm going to work over here, bring it down, and we've cut the pattern in alignment. Remember, we always stack it on the one previous. The only one that sticks out is number 1. Right, our master sheet. We now take the carpenter square, we line it up, and we cut it. We have cut all the paper for the room.
It's amazing.
It is amazing.
Done.
You know, we said that there's like 45 different sheets, right? So I want to just prove to you, okay, we have cut all 45 sheets, okay, in sequence, in the length, right here on the table. Yes, congratulations. Now, what do we do with it? Okay.
Yeah.
Next step is a technique we call back rolling. Okay. Now, we have got all the paper here. It's all matched. It's all numbered in sequence. Now, what we have to do is roll the paper from the bottom of the sheet toward the front, up to the top. Okay. So from bottom to top, and we're going to take these number 10 rubber bands and we're going to slip them right over what we call a back rolled cylinder. Okay. Now, there's 4 reasons why we back roll, and this is critical. Number 1, it'll take the twist out of the wallpaper roll because it's been twisted in a roll, right? Number 2, it exposes the pre-pasted side of the wallpaper. This is the pretty side, that's the working side, okay? Number 3, it allows us now to drop it in the water tray, which is what we're going to use to activate our pre-pasted wallpaper. And number 4, it's a lot easier to manage the roll, the cylinder, than it is these sheets flying over the place that can actually get ripped, torn, or shredded. So we're going to do a technique called back rolling. We're going to start from the bottom up, you and I, and then we're going to stack them up in sequence. So it'll go like 45, 44, 43, and so forth.
That's why you had the number on this end.
Very good. Yes, because we're going to roll from the bottom up. Now, you're going to see when we put it in the water tray, it's very important because we'll know what number to put it in, and then also how to fold it up, which is a process we're going to call booking, and I'm going to show you that. Probably tomorrow, because you know what? It's been a long day, and we're going to do this tomorrow. Okay, so here we go. And what we're going to do is start at the bottom. Now watch the technique here, okay? We just roll it in very gently, create a little cylinder, and then we're just going to keep the paper on the table. Now, one of the things that I'm doing too is I'm making sure that I don't go skew off, okay? Which means I'm rolling this cylinder so it's right up on top of itself. Because I don't, number 1, I don't want to damage the edges. And also what's happening here is it makes it a lot easier. Notice how I just roll and I walk and I talk. How you doing, Janet? Okay. we get to the end, and if it goes off a little bit, here's a little trick. Just push down very gently.
Okay.
Take your number 10 rubber band, slip it right over the top, and we're going to stack it over there.
Okay.
So the next one, so you're going to follow me. You
All
pick
right.
up the next one, and we're going to get this tag team thing going.
Okay.
Where you're rolling, and then I'm going to come back behind you and roll the next one, and roll the next one, and roll the next one. Okay, excellent. Yep, give it a little turn in. Can't hurt it, okay?
Okay.
This is actually a pretty tough material, and what we want to do is make sure we're rolling into the cylinder. That's it, and just roll your hands right on it. There you go. Isn't that a lot easier to do it that way?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, instead of rolling it by hand, you just roll it by here. Now watch, I'm tag teaming you. I'm going to go right behind you. And we can get into, you know, just working comfortably here, right up the hip. Now you know why having a table is so critical.
Oh yeah, it makes a big difference.
Yeah,
and
we
the
couldn't
height
do
is
this.
Good too.
Well, the other thing too is you'd be up and down, up and down, up and down. You have a 3-story house. Oh my God, I'd be going up and down those stairs if I was cutting them one at a time.
Yeah. Crazy.
So if that's 45, then 44. Now here's the thing: we always want to turn the numbers.
Okay.
So that they're in sequence, and we can see it 45, 43, 44,
Okay.
43. So we know we are in sequence, and this is the way not only that we are going to actually install the room, but this is the way we're going to activate. Because we're starting at the end, and when we're done, we're going to be back at number what?
1.
1. And that is where we are going to start activating our paper, and that is also the number which we're going to start hanging our wallpaper, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Okay.
Okay, we got the last 3. So we have only taken maybe 15 minutes to do this because we've worked together and we're just doing like a sort of a tag team here again. Look at this, just roll, 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 just like that. Come to the end, give it a little tap, swing it down. And if you notice, and this is really what we call processing the paper. Remember, we started down here at 45, well, we've gone all the way through and we've just cross-stacked them. So we're back at number
1.
That's right. And that is where we're going to begin our activating, which is the next step after we've got our paper. So really, literally in an afternoon, we can get all the paper laid out, we can get it all cut, and we can get it all stacked and processed, just ready to go for activation. Now, if it wasn't, you know, the end of the day and we got things to do, maybe we'd move on and hang, but we're going to save that for tomorrow.
Can you activate and leave it for the night?
It's really not a good idea, but you could do that for maybe a border.
Oh.
But on the wall covering itself, I really suggest that we try to do it within the day. We're going to activate our paper now. Because we're going to hang your master bedroom.
Can't wait.
It's going to be amazing. Oh, I'll tell you, these are very good quality materials, and they are pre-pasted, which means that we're going to use our work table. We've covered it in plastic. We have our water tray. We have our extra rubber bands, and behold, the entire room of wallpaper has already been, that's it. All 40 some odd sheets are already marked, they're rubber banded, and they're ready for processing. We call this processing or activation of the paper. Now, a couple little secrets about doing this. Now, we have stacked these up so that we're starting with number 1, and then of course you can see 2, 3, 4, 5, and so forth. That's the sequence in which we're going to actually hang. Now, little secret about this is we want to make sure when we put the sheet of wallpaper that we've cut, which is our master sheet, we put it in the water tray this way so the number is near you. Why? So that when I pull it out, the adhesive side will be up and the vinyl side will be down. You see, if I accidentally do it the other way, where the number is away from me and I pull it out, the paper is going to stick right to the table.
Okay.
Not cool, okay?
No, wouldn't be good.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, and so the way I always remember this, always put the number near your heart. Yeah, just like that. So we pull off the rubber band, we're going to put it right in here, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to drop it into the water tray like so.
Oh, the whole
now,
thing.
the whole sheet. Now, this is a really important step, okay? This is now lukewarm water. It's not too hot, not too cold. And you notice I'm letting it rest here just for a little bit. Now, here's what we're going to do. Very slowly. We pull it from the water. Now you'll actually see that there's a change. You'll notice that the water's starting to suck down into the adhesive, which is going to activate it. Now, if it's a little dry, just go ahead, throw a little water on. That's why you're wearing the apron.
Every time you add a little more?
Just a little bit. It's not going to hurt it. And then what we're going to do is do this. We're going to fold it inward, okay? Just like that, aligning the edges, okay, or the seams.
Now, when do you fold it? At what point?
Well, I come to about end of the table. Excellent question. And then we fold it in just like so. Now, this is a very long sheet, so we can only deal with about half the sheet at a time. So we're going to pull the rest of it out like so. We're going to add a little bit of water.
Okay.
And then we're going to fold it inward like so. Now, a couple little secrets about handling this. Now, we do not want to leave a gap like that. It'll dry out there.
Oh, okay.
So here's what we're going to do. We can actually pick this up. Now, a lot of people think this is like contact adhesive and it's going to boom, stick, right? Water-based. So it's going to slide around. So we're going to go ahead and lift this and come up about an inch. Now the reason, overlap, exactly. And the reason we do that is so it doesn't dry out there. Okay. Now this is still too big a sheet to actually work with. So here's what we do. We fold it toward the water tray, like so. Okay. Then we take this and we fold it toward the water tray, like so.
Okay,
and
so
then,
keep going towards
the always towards the water tray.
Right.
And then take it and set it right at the edge over here. Okay. Now we can go ahead and take these stacks. I'm going to actually set it above here so that you can pull the whole wool out. And once we get about a stack of 10, we're going to put it into our trash bag and seal it. Now that will prevent the paper from drying out. Number 2, it's going to allow the adhesive to get thoroughly activated, which is what no sticky here means no sticky up there, right?
Yeah.
And then also what it's going to do is make certain that there's no any type of shrinkage or so the seams don't open up.
How long does it take to activate?
Great question. Actually, it can take about 5 to 15 minutes. Okay. So a lot of people, the mistake they do is they pull it right out of the water tray and they go right up on the wall, and then now you're wearing water, okay? And then it doesn't activate, and the paper curls and the adhesive, there's no sticky.
Oh, okay.
So this is a crucial step. Now, you're going to find that you're going to go through a lot of water. So I'm going to step over here. I want to show you something. We've actually set up a bucket over here and a little bit of fill bucket. Okay. So as you don't have to pick up the big bucket, you can just go ahead and just fill in a little bit more as it gets lower and lower. And we want to keep putting fresh water in. So when it gets about halfway down, put fresh water in. All right. So I'm going to go and get my tools together, and I'm going to have you activator. Okay. Hangover. And I'm going to go upstairs and get that room ready, and we can begin our process, and you'd be amazed how fast we're going to get this done.
Oh boy, great.
Okay, here he is, the moment of truth. We're going to hang our first sheet. So we need to use our plumb line. Now coming over to our first sheet, we're going to set the plumb line right into the wall here. I like to use a plumb line, not a level, because this is going to be straight up and down. This mass right there is going to pull the string nice and tight. And you notice we're right about where our seam is going to go here, okay? So if you can go ahead and put your finger tight on there, yep. Go ahead and pull down the string just a little bit. And that's going to tighten it, and I'm going to go ahead right about in the middle and snap the chalk. Now automatically, if you notice, this has been transferred onto the wall, and that gives me the straight line in which I need to hang the wallpaper to. And also, if you notice, my chalk is yellow or orange. You don't want blue chalk because it'll come right up through the seam. One of the other things too that every smart wizard knows is you take your brush, and what you want to do is slightly just take the dust off the wall. And what this is going to do is now not have that dust come up through the seam, and you're not going to get any type of discoloration at the seam. So let's go ahead and start hanging. Okay, Janet, can you hand me the first sheet, please?
Sure.
Okay, great. Oh, excellent. Look at that. It's all been booked and ready to go. And we're going to go ahead and unfold the top here. Now, I want to show you something really interesting about this. You know, remember we activated and booked the paper? I want you to look at the back of this paper. Look at all the adhesive. Wow. Do not paste a pre-pasted paper. That's one of the big mistakes a lot of people do. Now, here's the other thing. I know which way is up because it's marked number 1 right at the top. Okay. Now, here's the other thing. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to let the paper fold. And notice I did not unfold the full thing. The reason why the full sheet is because if I touch the floor, I'm not going to get adhesive on the floor, nor am I going to get floor in the adhesive. So we only unfold half the sheet at a time. That's why I had you fold it in half down at the table. Okay, now I'm going to come up onto the wall, and I'm going to go ahead and step on my ladder. We're going to come up and bring the first sheet up to the cut line. Remember, we have 2 inches of overlap at the top. And then remember that plumb line we just did? I'm going to take it right along the plumb line, and then I'm going to take my brush. Now, little secret about hanging wallpaper. Okay, always brush up and down, okay? Now, the reason we're brushing up and down is to get the air out. We're not trying to eliminate the adhesive. One of the worst mistakes a lot of people do is they take something like this and they do this. And it squeezes out the adhesive. Yeah. Bad news. And not only that, but I stretched the paper, and now it's not going to be straight. So a brush is designed to actually take out just the air and not take out the adhesive, because it's the adhesive that actually makes the paper stick to the wall. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do some trimming, and that's when we whip out this. Okay? Now the straight edge here that we're going to use is this 4-inch broad knife, and I'm going to use my knife, and I always snap the tip in the pouch. Remember that? Okay, now I'm going to lock the blade, and I'm going to take and score the top just like so, and I'm going to score down the corner, and now we're going to trim. Now, the way you do this is you put the knife in, you pick up the broad knife, you move the knife, pick it up, move it, pick it up, move it, pick it up, and you just come right along, and this trims off the salvage, okay? Now, if you can, if you would, take the garbage and put it into the garbage can and hand me a wet sponge. And since I'm up here, I might as well go ahead and wipe off any type of residue adhesive onto the paint and onto the ceiling. So I'm just working right along here, very gently, okay? And this way we're working together. That way you're saving me a lot of time, because I'm not up and down on the ladder, okay? And that is going to be, it wears you out a little bit if you're trying to do this. So we're going to go ahead, and I'm just going to wipe a little bit of this off, and any adhesive or any type of chalk that might have come through. So I'm going to take that, give that to you. I'm going to walk down my ladder, okay? And I'm going to come over here, and I'm just going to set this back so I can work. Now we're going to go ahead and unfold the bottom half of the sheet, okay? Now, automatically now, I can go ahead and just let it set and rest. I'm setting it to the plumb line. And which way do we brush? Up and down, okay? That's really important that we learn to do this automatically and not worry about going side to side. Now, the bottom is going to be the same thing here, where we're going to trim off any type of excess. And you notice now, look, you can see the full run of this pattern going up and down. Isn't that beautiful?
I love it.
Me too. I think it is probably one of the best examples of how a design can actually change a room and give us a lot of depth and texture. And we're going to show you that as we go through the room. You ready?
I sure am.
Me too. Okay, here comes number 2. Tell you, it can go up very quickly. If you notice, I hung that sheet maybe about a minute or so. This is one of the reasons I like wall coverings, okay? I couldn't even do this in faux finish. Okay, we know the second one, because guess what? Number 2.
Number 2.
Okay, and I'm going to come over here, unfold the sheet. I'm going to set it right up onto the wall, lining the pattern. Now, what's good about this is we can actually pick it up a little bit and move it around. That's one of the reasons we give it a little primer on there, so that we have a little bit of slip. Adjustment. And I have, yes, adjustment. That's the right word. Okay, and I can go ahead and just smooth my paper right on the wall. Notice which way am I brushing?
Up and down.
Up and down, that's right. And I'm just trying to get the air out without getting out the adhesive. Boy, I tell you, that is a huge secret. I'm going to reach up here, and I'm just going to trim along, and we have a nice tight line. And I'm going to go ahead and set this along. You notice how I'm not tugging on this, I'm not pulling on it, I'm just very gently just setting the paper into place. And we get a beautiful, look at that.
It's amazing.
Isn't that amazing? Like I said, I couldn't do this in paint, and I am an excellent painter, believe me. We're going to score the bottom, take our knife, trim the bottom, and there's your garbage, okay? Again, I'm going to check. I always check. Okay, look at this. Number 3. That's right. Because we don't want to get out of sequence, we can go ahead, hang this up onto the wall, line the pattern up. These are butt edge papers. Remember, do you remember what rule number 3 is? No overlapping, right? These are butt edge papers, which means that the pattern is matched right along the edge and right along the seam. So this gives me the ability to just go ahead and work very quickly and cleanly onto the wall like so. And also, if you notice, there's our key element. Remember that we chose that piece right there as being, and we didn't cut it off when we were down on the table. We made sure that we really focused on giving that attention on that piece of element right there, okay? And we're just gonna work really quickly, and we'll walk the top a little bit. Hey, we can work together, right? I'll do the top a little bit, you do the bottom a little bit, okay?
Okay.
All right, now I'm gonna move my ladder to in front, because I'm working in that direction. And I'm going to continue our process working and getting through the project very nicely. I'm going to unfold the bottom, and we set the paper into place, brush it up and down, always working into the seam, okay?
Wow, that folding trick just makes it so easy.
Manageable, yes.
Yes, it does.
Easy is the word. Now, we're going to do a quick little cutting right here, okay? I need to cut around my switch plate. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take my knife. Did you hear the snap? Okay, I always snap the blade. We're gonna make one cut down, one cut here, one across the top, and then we're gonna make one across the bottom. And what we can do now is go ahead and work the paper right around. This allows me now to trim the bottom part here. We're gonna take this broad knife, give it a little score, take the knife, and just cut right along. Look at that. Absolutely exquisite.
That's amazing.
It is. Now, let's talk a little bit about seams. Okay, we've got like 1, 2, 3 sheets up, and this is where we're going to use our float. Now, the idea here is not to squeegee this adhesive out. What we want to do is this. You just want to very gently come down the sheet like this, okay? Now, the idea here is we're leveling the adhesive out. I'm not trying to squeeze it out. I'm trying to actually level the seam so that the seam will not open up. Now these are very stable materials too because they're made by Blue Mountain, and what it is called a non-woven material, which gives it a lot of structure, and I don't have to worry about the seam separating or having materials come apart on the wall. So I'm going to continue. Can you get number 4, please?
Sure.
Thank you. I'm going to line the pattern. Now if you notice, I take great care, and I'm just going to wiggle the pattern, no overlapping. Again, brush the air out, not the adhesive, working up and down, just like so. Just very cleanly. You know, a lot of people overwork the wall covering, and then they wonder why the seams all blow open, okay?
Yeah,
It's
very
just
lightly.
Very lightly. We're just trying to get the air out, not the adhesive, okay? Now we're going to do a little bit of cutting. Now this gets a little tricky because we could not remove this telephone, right, Jack? So what I'm going to do is do a little bit of a cut down. I'm going to find the top over here, make a little cut down, and then find the little bottom corner, make a cut in, and find the other corner and make a cut in. Now, what we can do there is now cut this open so I can cut the tabs off. Now, what do we mean by tabs? You see, in order to get this, because I couldn't remove it, I now can get the paper to come right around this object. Okay, you know what? Wow. You know, it took us about 20 minutes to do that wall.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I love it. I think it adds such great texture and depth to the wall.
I'm just
Notice how it scales beautifully. See this rhythm? I don't know if you can see this. See this big flower right here? And it goes right across. We didn't cut that off. That was our key element. It sort of creates this diagonal kind of a thing across the wall, and that's what gives it this nice big depth, and with the stripes going up and down, that gives us the height. So we're going to show you a little trick. Now we have to get into this corner here, so I'm going to show you a little way of approaching that, okay?
Okay. Okay,
Janet, I know this seems like it's daunting because we have these big full sheets and we have this little teeny area. Well, I'm going to give you a little secret how a wizard does this. Now, if you noticed, here is our exact pattern right here. Can you see the same pattern?
Yeah.
See the little crescent right there? Okay. Now this is the sheet that's going to go here, and here's, instead of trying to take the whole sheet around, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this and go upside down. I'm going to put it right in the corner like so. I'm going to take my knife, I'm going to come out about 2 inches, follow the stripe, and I'm going to cut that right off. and put it back in my plastic bag, okay? Just in case we need a little extra piece, we may have it now. Now what I can do is, because we cut it this way, upside down, I'm now gonna turn it right side up. And now it should be just the width we need plus that little extra that's going to go inside of my corner. And so then I can do what's called a scribe cut. You see how the pattern automatically, and this is so much easier to go ahead, and we've already pre-cut all the waste and everything off the paper itself. Now what I can do is trim down and get this paper now to go right inside of the corner. So I'm going to take my brush and just brush up and down. And I'm going to need probably a sponge here in a few moments, so if you can get that ready, I appreciate it. And I'm going to take my knife and cut right along. Remember, I'm always snapping my blade as I go. I'll trade you.
Okay.
Thank you, dear. And we're going to set it right up here. And now what I'm going to do is snap the blade. Listen. Always snap the blade. I'll tell you, that is one of the great secrets. And again, remember, we caulked all the corners. In fact, I caulked the inside corner so that when my blade comes right down along, you can see we get a nice crisp cut. That is one of the great secrets. Now, you see that? That's our mud. So, yeah, don't worry. I can see your face. Like,
well, I thought it was the paint that was taken off.
You see what's going to happen is I'm going to come back in here and I'm just going to scrub that away. You see? And it's just going to go away. Yeah, and so we're not going to worry too much about that. Now, I don't want to over wash the paper because I don't want to take off our flock, right? So the idea here is just come in here very gently and just come back and forth. Sometimes what happens though too, you have to do maybe a little bit of a touch up with the paint. So it's always good to have a little extra paint. But in this case, when that dries, you won't even see that edge. So I'm going to go ahead and take my towel, please. I think I have one down there. And I'll switch out. And I'm going to come over here and just dry this off and work right down the corner. Okay, so here you go. And I'm going to go ahead and finish up the rest of this corner just by butting it up against the seam. And this is excess, so I'm going to have you throw that away. There you are. And just go ahead and work again right down, working the pattern, setting the seam. Okay, we use our float to set it just like so. Come down the corner. You see I'm working very easily, okay? I'm not trying to overwork, I'm not trying to stretch, not trying to over stress the paper. I'm just working the material down, and you can see that it's really straight, okay?
Fantastic.
It is, it really is. This is a very, very good selection for this room. I think the colors, the scale, the line, all the different things here, the stripe, all work really, really well to showcase this room and give you really lasting beauty for years to come. You know what's neat about this stuff? When we don't like it a few years down the line, we pull it and the whole thing comes off. So I don't have to go through all that stripping stuff.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so I'm going to again scribe right down the corner, just like so. Pull off the excess, throw it away, and yes, I'll trade you. There you go. We'll just wash right down the corner. I like to always wash as the paste is fresh. If you let that paste sit on the paint, then you're going to see it sort of burnish or discolor the paint on the adjacent wall. So we're going to come right down like so, and we'll come back in there and let that soften up and just go ahead and rinse down that corner maybe a couple minutes, okay? So I want to go ahead and dry that off for me.
Okay.
Isn't that look amazing?
Oh, it's great.
Yeah. This is number 16. I know it's number 16 because it's 15A that we did last. And it's marked 16 right there. So we're going to go ahead and take the paper up. But if you notice, we're coming into a corner. So that poses a problem. We do not want to wrap around the corner. We're going to do a technique called scribing. Now, I want to show you again how to do a tension cut. So we set the pattern and secure it up here with our brush. We're going to take our knife and we find the corner, make a 45-degree out and away. This now is going to allow the paper to go around the molding. That's called a tension cut. Now, we're also going to be very gentle to line the paper up, so we're not taking it out of shape, and because we have to align the pattern to the floor here, down to the bottom one underneath, so I don't want to knock the pattern too much out of alignment here. So I'm going to step back, unfold the bottom half of the sheet. And then again, rule number 2 says we cut inside corners. So I'm going to come back to that in a few moments. All right. It's sort of hard to see because, you know, we are working in tight spaces, but what I'm going to do is find the corner here and make a 45-degree up and away. This now allows the paper to go around the molding. So we can now take and align the pattern coming down around the window, and I can work the pattern just like so. Again, we want to avoid trying to stretch it. Worst thing we can do is stretch the material, because anything that we stretch is going to shrink back because it's wet. Anything that's wet shrinks. Anything dry, stable. So what we try to do is not knock it out of alignment or knock it out of parallel. So we're going to go ahead and trim the bottom. I'm going to pull out that. Okay, keep that little piece. Go ahead and throw that away. Okay, and what we're going to do is come in and trim around. Oops, got the drops here. And trim around the bottom. Throw it away. Thank you. And I'm going to come over here and trim down this excess salvage or waste. Again, taking the broad knife very cleanly, right down, very sharp tip. That's the secret. Remember, the broad knife, the knife, and the caulking are going to give us always a clean cut. And I'm working back up, score, snap the blade, and fresh tip. Okay, look at that. Pretty slick, huh?
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, here we go. We're going to score that, trim up the top, and I could use definitely a sponge, please. I'm going to go ahead and remove. There we go. Thank you. Best that we try to catch, again, the adhesive while it's fresh, before it sets, on the face and all the moldings. Wizards work wet. So we don't want to get this paste to dry on these surfaces because it's about 10 times harder to get it off when it's dry than it is when it's wet. Okay, so let me go ahead and dry this, and then we're going to scribe that corner. Okay, Janet, boy, I tell you, I can't think of a better corner to teach you something, and it follows the principles, the 3 laws that we need to use. Rule number 1, law number 1 says every new wall gets a new plumb line. So being this is a new wall, we're going to drop a plumb line. Also, we are going to wrap outside corners, cut inside corners. Now, if you notice, I brought this paper around, but I left it here until I can get this sheet around, and then I'm going to scribe it, cut into the corner, take this little piece, and match it up to this one. So this is what we call major plane, minor plane, okay? Because I don't want to take a little plane. It'd be hard to take this around because it's so teeny, I can't drop a plumb line here, but I can do it over here and back up and get that angle correct. So here's what I need. That is, the plumb line has stopped moving. I want you to go ahead and put your finger right on the plumb line. Perfect, okay? And I'm going to snap it, and cool. Now we have our plumb line, and we can begin our installation. Could you hand me 17, please? And I know it's 17 because it's marked on the wall, and it should correspond to the mark on the paper, okay?
Okay.
Excellent. There we go. So let's go ahead and double check that. We'll open it up, and you know, less than about an hour here, we have done 17 sheets, and that is actually moving along pretty good.
Yes.
There it is, 17.
Great.
Okay, so here we go. We're going to go ahead and take this up, come right up to the plumb line. I'm going to line this up, and I'm also going to check to make sure my pattern is aligning around the corner. Now you can see we have plenty of overlap coming back in here, and that's okay. If you're going to lose a pattern, you always lose it in the corner, okay?
Okay.
So that is one of the little secrets that we learn about matching a pattern. I'd rather have it look straight and vertical and lose a little bit of a pattern inside the corner than to worry about trying to match this exactly. And I'm going to show you a little trick when we get there, how this is actually going to work out, and it's going to look pretty cool when we're done. So sometimes it takes a little bit of working here to get everything just to align the way we want to. And I'm also using this edge as sort of to look at it and see how space that stripe is, and now I'm going to go ahead and set it. And if you look at it, it's almost exactly where the plumb line is and where the mark is that we put earlier when we did our layout. Remember the layout?
Uh-huh.
That's our roadmap, remember, for success, and it's following exactly the way that we want to do it. Now, we also have another tension cut happening here. You see, we can't get this paper to come around the corner, so I'm going to take and make a series of very small little cuts, and automatically now it's going to allow the paper to go right around that corner. Isn't that interesting how that worked? Yeah, so these are little tricks. You use the same tricks over and over and over again, and different applications are going to give us different kinds of effects, and gives me the ability to be able to work the material and do the kind of workmanship that you'll be proud of for years to come. Working down the sheet, still at 17, we're going to go ahead and make another tension cut. And this is how we get around objects. Here we go. Make a little cut here, and we take our knife and we make another little cut inward. And this allows now the paper to break around the heater vent. We're also going to make a series of small, again, tension cuts, very teeny cuts, that goes right along the bottom, so that allows the paper to go around the bullnose. This is what we call a bullnose, a round corner. All right, we need to go ahead and finish up. Remember, we had our 16 coming around. I put my 17 back. We dropped the plumb line here. We brought the paper around the outside corner, but we still have this inside corner piece to actually deal with. So first thing I'm going to do is come in and cut the top, and then I'm going to take and scribe down the corner. Now, this is a very slow cut we want to do because we do not want to rip or tear. And what we're going to do is slightly bring the paper and the knife and the broad knife all in alignment, just like so. Now, just to be able to show you, as this is what I'm doing as I work down the corner, and you can see that not only do I get the seam nice and straight, but also if there's any pattern defect, it all goes in the corner. See, it's okay to misalign or mismatch in the corner because that's not where you see a misalignment. You would see if the stripe was out of stripe here, or out of straight. But if you slightly, have a misalignment in the corner, it's okay. It's not where you see. It's not where I really am going to pay attention to all that much. So I'm just going to keep working down here, setting the paper, taking my float, just going down the corner, setting the seam, and then taking, and we can just tear that off. We're going to rip off the excess selvage, and I'm going to take my knife and again score, break the paper. That scoring is very important because it allows and increases the paper so it's very tight into the corner. Take my knife, sharp tip, and go right down the corner. This again is called scribing the corner. It's one of the great ways that you can get the paper to look as if it matches, but doesn't necessarily have to match, okay? It's trying to now take the misalignment of wall to wall and burying it inside a corner. It's okay. Well, we're coming around. We obviously did around the door here, came around here and matched the pattern, and we are now onto a new wall, which means a new plumb line. Now, obviously, I've dropped a new plumb line right here, and what I'm doing is setting up to bring this paper, which I'll butt against this sheet here, come around inside this corner. And I want to show you a real slick trick on how to cut into this little area. So we're going to show you that in a moment. So let's go ahead and score the top and cut the top, just like so. All right, easy, easy. Now we're going to brush the paper, and I'm making sure that it's right along my plumb line. Now we're going to do also a tension cut here, which means what I want to do is take my knife, make a little teeny cut here, and then what we're going to do is actually slice across. Now, I know this seems like, oh my goodness, what about that? But remember, we cut some extra paper to go around here, which I'm going to show you how to do a match into a odd or wrapped shape, which is right here along the cabinet. So we'll get back to that in a few moments, all right? But the important thing that we're trying to understand here is how to actually set up for this corner. So I've got my piece of paper here, which I know is 22. It should be marked at the top as 22. Oh yeah. So we're gonna go over here and set the pattern right along the inside corner and the seam. This is automatically going to lay us up here to come into and around and pick up that corner. Okay, so let's go ahead, take our time matching the pattern. This is what makes a great seam, is taking the time, smooth all the bubbles out, make sure the seam is nice and tight. But with the seam, do not go side to side. It will automatically squeeze out the very thing that should have held the paper to the wall, the adhesive. So we're not going to be scraping or squeezing. Now, if you notice, I'm doing a little teeny slider cut here. This now allows the paper to come around this corner. Now, a little teeny corner like this, we don't have to cut into. All right, that is really going to save us a little bit of time, and it would be near physically impossible. So I'm going to go ahead and trim the top of my sheet here, and also the top of the preceding sheet, which means that it's coming around inside of the corner. Now, this is a really simple way to realign a pattern. Now, we're going to do a technique here called double cutting. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. Take my knife, I'm going to set it right here, and I'm going to cut through both layers. I'm going to remove the top part. I'm going to open up, remove the under part, and now we have a perfect seam. A little bit of issue with pattern. We can now make it look as if it flows around the room without actually having it physically go around the room. I'm going to take my time and continue working down the seam, just like so. Now, let's show you how to do this cut right here so that we don't have to we can't get our knife in there, can't get my hand in there, so here's what a wizard can do. Take your knife, and you very gently take it and just slide using the molding itself as the guide. Now, this gives me the ability of just tucking the paper right behind there and give you a nice clean edge. Okay, so this is a way of dealing with some of the physical limitations that you have of a room and the way that you have to handle pattern onto a wall. So let's continue on, taking, brushing, and working. And we can go ahead, and any type of waste that we have, we can trim off. I mean, you don't have to keep fighting the waste or the selvage. We'll go ahead and throw that into our garbage. There we go. And don't make any cuts until the paper face is on the wall. It's another mistake that can be a costly one because we don't want to have a short cut here, which means that we'd run out of material. So I'm going to take the knife, just slide right up the corner, and then tuck it in. This gives you a very clean, and it looks as if the paper is going around and in the corner there. So it's a great illusion, nice little trick. You can always come back and trim a little extra if you have to, if there's a little extra rollage. Okay, let's go ahead and work down, open up, align to my plumb line, and again we have an outside tension cut to deal with. So we're going to make a little cut here, a little teeny cut there, a little teeny cut right there. And this now allows this paper to wrap around the outside corners. Remember the outside corner trick? We got to wrap it. And we do that because if we leave an exposed edge there, number one, it could lift. Number two, it doesn't look very nice if you have an edge because you see the white backing of the paper. So this is not only a technical thing to make sure that the paper is going to not lift at the outside edge, but it's also an aesthetic. Make sure it looks really nice when we're done. Okay, so let's go ahead and just work the sheet, set the seam. You notice how repetitive this is, and that's also gives me a lot of confidence because when I do something more and more, the better I get at it. So I can just take my time and keep using these same little procedures over and over again, and I get very comfortable with the use of my tools, the position of my body, and how I'm setting the actual wall covering. Okay. Now we're going to start to get really interesting here. Okay, so what I need to do is find the wrap, find the corner, make a little teeny cut out, and slide to meet that. Now that automatically is going to give me a couple of things. It's going to give me the pattern that wraps underneath. I can now trim away some of this selvage. I now can come in here, and this is going to wrap around this outside edge. This is a bull nose. So what I'm going to do is take my knife and just very free-handedly come in and just cut. Now this takes a little bit of skill, okay? It takes a little bit of practice. And this now will allow the paper, and we're going to use this line right here to follow right around the curve. So very gently, okay, I want to come along, cut into the brown, And we get a really precise, clean cut. Now, we have this. Remember I said we're going to get back to that. And I'm going to show you how to do a very interesting concept here called a double cut wrap. Now, double cut wraps work really well when we have any type of windows that are non-cased. Now, what does that mean? That means that they're not got a framework like the moldings back here, and we have to go into it. So first thing, this is going to sound counterintuitive, but the first thing we're going to do is trim out this piece. Okay, we're going to take it right out of there, just like so. And it's like, oh no, I got a big hole. Well, remember, we cut extra paper. This was the T that what Dan and I had talked about earlier. And I'm going to take this piece of paper, I'm going to cut it so it's about, an inch or two wider. Now remember, this is the same match as the top of the wallpaper here. And it is just long enough that's going to go inside of this wrap. So I have the match, and I have enough material to go inside, and I'm going to take great care to match the pattern and smooth it out. And we're going to do a double cut here in just a few moments. Now, let's go ahead, and I cannot stress this enough, is to take your time and make sure all the seams are set, that you trimmed off everything, and you're happy with the position of the pattern. Go ahead and trim that off. Now, here comes the real secret of doing this. We're going to take our knife, and we're going to make a little teeny tension cut here so that the paper will go right here in the inside corner, will wrap inside. So now we've got the face to match, but now we have the pattern matching, and we have no exposed edges, and we have a seam that comes right in underneath. Now we're going to do a little bit of trimming here. So this is going to now give it the illusion that this paper actually matches. Now here's the secret. We're going to come along just very gently, take our knife and scribe here, take the knife and the broad knife, cut in and across, and this gives you the ability here, taking the knife, just open the blade up, and it'll just cut right along and give you a nice rounded edge. I have to come from the top to be able to see it. There we go. And there we are. Beautiful. Okay, now we are still left with this overlap. Remember, rule number 3 says no overlapping. So let me prove that to you. Here's the lap here, and here's the original sheet. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to take our knife, and we have a straight edge here that we could use, but I'm just going to show you how well this technique really works. I'm going to freehand it. Now, why did I do a wiggle? Well, no big deal. I just wanted to show you that it'll still match. But also, by doing a little wiggle, it's going to lock the seam into place so that when I go ahead and remove this paper back in here, is that automatically now this pattern is going to match right into place. You'll have no overlap there, and the pattern will continue, and you have the wrapped edge, so you have a continuous material, and that is really the right way to work a rounded corner or any type of cased window. Okay, there's one more thing we got to do, And I guess we're going to be using the border in your playroom. That's where you're thinking of putting it. So one of the last little processes I like to do is always back roll your borders. Now, there's a couple of reasons why, and here's a little secret I'm going to give you. We're going to take our border and we use it as a core. Now, why do we back roll or roll inwards? Well, same reasons as our paper. Number one, it'll take the twist out of the border, and these are really twisty. Number two, it exposes the pre-pasted side. Number three, it now makes it easier to drop it in the water tray so we can activate it. And number four, we're not going to rip and tear this, okay? So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you a little wizard trick, okay? Take this border, roll it on the inside. Now this gives you a core or a wheel in which you can now go ahead and twist that in. So you go ahead and do that one. Okay. And we've already done a couple more there. So what I'm going to do is just do this one by myself and just roll it inward. Okay, hey, you know what? Borders. Really interesting way to create a little architecture in the room. So I'm going to show you a different way of actually activating. So we still take off the rubber band. We're going to drop it in here. We leave it for about 3, 4, 5 seconds, right? Now here's what I want you to do. I want you to put your finger right there very gently, okay? Now the reason we're having you do that, and it's always good for 2 people to book. Now did you notice how the paper's rolling in on itself? Mm-hmm. The paper backing expands about 4 times faster than the face or the vinyl. And so what we're going to do is we're activating the paper, but also we're going to come out about 6 feet and we're going to fold it in. We're going to book it, remember that? And then you see how it's curling? Well, we're still going to align those edges. You know, we're really important about those edges, right? Now, watch this. We're going to pull out the rest of it, come to the end of the table, and you notice there's still a lot because there's 15 feet of border.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to take it and we're going to fold it inward. That is called accordion booking.
Okay.
Now we're going to come over here, take the rest out, and then we flip it in. And now watch. We're going to take the whole roll here, a border, fold it in, fold it in, fold it in, fold it in. Now, can you hand me a rubber band, please, dear? Okay, and we're going to take the rubber band. This is a little wizard trick I like to do. We're going to take this and we're going to go right around here and we're going to drop them inside of our border bag, okay?
Okay.
Now, this is going to zip shut after we get all the borders done. It'll keep it nice and wet because the enemy of adhesive is air. You see, as long as it stays in its wet state and the air's not getting to it, it won't allow those edges to dry and we'll be able to hang this border. How long can you let this go? Yeah. Probably about 5, 6 hours. I've even done overnight, but you don't want to go too far because then it's going to start to dry out. So let's go ahead and do this one more time, you and I, okay? Drop in like that, take it in. Again, what you're doing by putting your finger there is keeping the border from rolling completely out of the tray because it's so small. See how it's curling in already? As soon as the water touches it, oh my goodness, it wants to roll inward. So by doing that, again, coming out a little bit, coming over, accordion booking, and then taking the rest of the paper out. You notice I'm doing it very consistently. I'm not trying to do too small little sections because then I have to unfold that up on the wall. So I try to give it really manageable little sections. Rubber band, please. Okay, that comes right around like so. And again, we go ahead and take it into the bag and zip shut. Now, I'm going to have you continue on, okay? I think that we can go ahead and work together. You can just, all you have to do, if you have a one like this, you can actually put a weight inside there if you want to. Okay. Or you can go ahead, again, the same thing. Remember, the pattern side is always down. Okay. And the paper side up. You know, there's always a finishing touch to a room, and borders can add a lot of depth and character. So we're going to take our book paper, and what I'm going to have you do, you took off the rubber band, excellent. Now, here's what I want you to do. I'm going to have you go ahead and be my gravity, okay? And what do I mean by that? Well, you know, I have to have someone actually hold the paper for me, okay? So we're going to have you take this over here. What I'm going to do is come around. Now, I want you to sort of play some paper. There you go. Perfect, okay? And just go ahead and come right along the ceiling. Now, in order to separate the border, I'd leave a little bit of a wrinkle in the corner like so. And then we're going to come over here, and I'm going to have you put your left hand right there, okay? Can you reach up there? Okay, great. Excellent, Janet. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to just brush this along, come to the corner, brush it out, and then I'm going to take my knife, and I'm going to do a little cut in the corner. Now, the reason we do this is so that we can now take the paper, go underneath, and now it's going to go from wall to wall without having it wrap, because otherwise when it dries, it tightens and pops out, okay? Now, you stay there, and I'm going to take my ladder, and I'm going to come around you on this side over here, and we're going to continue on hanging around the room. Now, the one thing, though, how do you piece a piece of paper together. Let's say there's one continuous border here, right? And we've now run out of paper. What we have to do now is called a double cut, okay? Now if you notice, in this pattern is exactly the same match. You see it right there? Okay, now what we're going to do is overlap this like so. So imagine this is one end of the border, and then this is a continuing border going around the room, right?
Okay.
Well, we cannot leave an overlap. Remember that? Okay, rule number 3. No overlaps. So here's what a smart wizard will do. We're going to take our knife, and we're going to make a cut right through both layers, okay? Now this is going to remove the top, then we're going to come underneath, and we're going to remove the under. And now we just pop that out, and now we have it matching, and we can continue the pattern along on the wall, okay?
Great.
So we're going to go ahead and just take and smooth it so it's together. When I bring it together, you'll see it absolutely just disappears, okay? Now, that's the way we continue, but we do have to wash and dry it.
Okay.
So I'm going to have you go ahead and just start over here, and just as far out as you reach, and then just wipe it. And then, of course, what you need to do is then dry it. And we continue on, and that's the best way to handle a border. Wow, it's been a long 3 days.
It has.
Yes, it has. But you know,
A lot of work. But
well, we did a lot of work. I mean,
Yeah,
really,
but-
between the two of us, let's see, what did we do? We had to wash all the walls, we sanded the walls, we did some prep as far as smoothing and so forth. And then we had to cut all the paper, activate it all. I think we did actually very well. You know, we hung over 30 single rolls of wallpaper in that room.
It's really amazing, actually.
Yeah. Let's talk about your bedroom. Okay, we talked about the master bedroom. We had that beautiful bed of yours, and remember we started this whole project. That was the inspiration and the fabric, right? So if you notice how that pattern behind the bed looks amazing, because it really adds some scale and depth. It just sort of hung there before, and now you have some clarity. The other thing too, if you notice, as far as you go, what was the best part for you in the whole room? What part did you like about?
As far as the wallpaper?
Yeah, for you.
Itself,
What added?
Behind the bed, I love that. And then also walking into that hall area, sitting area room with the built-ins. I love the arch, and that just brings out that the woodwork and the white woodwork.
And you notice how we painted the ceiling the same dark color as we did it,
the ceiling,
above the bed.
and then also the arch.
Sort of tied two areas that were really sort of disjointed together.
Exactly.
And then we took it around past the bedroom, the bathroom area, the archway there, and into that master. And it really, what it did is when you are in the room, it actually dissects the room quite nicely, but yet still pulls it together, because we have different color, we have different patterns and so forth. So, you know, I think that this is one of the reasons why wall coverings are coming back, and I'm so proud and happy to show you some of the wizard's tricks on how to do this, because
I'm thrilled to learn them.
Yeah, you know what? I think it's going to add a lot of value to your home, and it adds an option that no one really has been doing lately. And so I'm really happy that you're enjoying this, and you know what? I think that, you know, we'll do another project together someday.
Master bathroom.
Oh my goodness.
I hope you'll be coming back.
Yes, I think maybe I will, and we'll share more secrets.
I look forward to it.
Absolutely.